Hello and welcome. Today we're going to dive into something big, the growing partnership between India and Africa. And, this isn't just about two regions getting closer. We're talking about a relationship that could potentially shift the entire global landscape. It's that significant. So, you got to ask, right? What's really driving all this? Why is the world's largest democracy suddenly putting so much energy into its ties with Africa, a continent it's called its sister for decades? Well, that's the big question we're going to unpack today. And look, this isn't just some abstract academic thing. This is happening right now. It's making headlines. You've probably seen it, a series of really high-level visits by India's prime minister to places like Namibia, Ghana, and Ethiopia. These trips have shoved the partnership right into the global spotlight. It's a clear signal, a statement of intent, really. Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll zoom in on that recent diplomatic action. Then, we'll take a step back, way back, to look at the history they share. After that, we'll get into what the partnership looks like today, we'll talk about the hurdles and the huge opportunities, and finally, we'll see where things are headed. Ready? Let's get into it. All right, first step. Let's talk about what actually came out of those big diplomatic visits. Because, these things aren't just for show. They really did set the stage for what looks like a brand new chapter in their cooperation. Yeah, these visits were definitely more than just photo ops and handshakes. I mean, look at Ethiopia. The relationship got a huge upgrade. It's now officially a strategic partnership. And India's PM even received their highest national honor. And this is the important part, they signed real deals. We're talking about a new data center and an agreement on debt restructuring through the G20. That's a big deal for helping countries manage their debt. It just goes to show this is a commitment that's about action, not just words. But, to really get what's happening now, we gotta look back. Because this relationship didn't just pop up out of nowhere. No way. It's built on a foundation, on connections that go back, well, literally thousands of years. And this timeline just lays it all out so perfectly. I mean, look at this. We're talking about sea trade happening way back in the 1st century. Then jump forward, you've got the city communities migrating from Africa to India. And then this huge pivotal moment, Mahatma Gandhi in South Africa, developing his whole philosophy of nonviolent resistance, satyagraha. That shared struggle against colonialism was a powerful bond that continued long after India's independence. It all sort of became official, you could say, in 2008 with the very first India-Africa Forum Summit. And that whole spirit, that history of shared struggle and solidarity, it was captured perfectly by India's first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru. He called Africa a sister continent. Just think about that phrase. It's so powerful, and it's really defined the emotional and political heart of this relationship ever since. Okay, so with all that history as our backdrop, let's jump back to today. Let's unpack this modern partnership. What is it exactly that makes this relationship so incredibly important for both sides, right here in the 21st century? What for India, Africa is... There's no other word for it. It's critical. Absolutely critical. Think about it. Geopolitically, all 54 African nations are natural partners for making the voice of the Global South louder. And we saw that, didn't we? Getting the African Union a seat at the G20 was a huge win. Economically, it's a massive, young, growing market. And for things like energy security and defense in the Indian Ocean, Africa is a powerhouse. And here's where things get really interesting. Let's talk about minerals. Just look at these numbers. Africa is sitting on almost half of the entire world's reserves of cobalt and manganese. So what does that mean? Well, those are the key ingredients for everything from EV batteries to all sorts of green tech. So if you're India and you've got big ambitions for manufacturing and a green energy transition, well, getting access to these minerals isn't just nice to have, it's non-negotiable. But listen, this is absolutely a two-way street. It's not one-sided at all. For Africa, India is a huge partner for trade and investment, but it's more than that. India offers a different kind of partnership. It's one that's driven by what African nations actually want and need, with no political strings attached. It's based on their priorities. And when you add in India's role in UN peacekeeping and programs that empower people at the grassroots level, you start to see just how deep and multi-layered this relationship really is. And just to give you a sense of the scale here, we are not talking small potatoes. The trade between them has already blown past the $100 billion mark. I mean, just let that sink in. That's a massive number, and it really shows you the powerful economic engine that's driving this whole partnership. But of course, a relationship this big, this important, it's never simple, is it? it's got its complexities. So let's be realistic here. Let's take a clear-eyed look at the challenges they're facing, but also at the incredible opportunities that are just waiting to be grabbed. Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room, China. China's approach in Africa, mainly through its huge Belt and Road Initiative, is all about massive scale, super deep pockets, and lightning-fast execution. India is playing a different game. Its approach is more about building up local skills and capacity, focusing on digital partnerships, and making sure projects are driven by what African countries actually want. It's a really clear contrast in how they do things. And it's not just about geopolitics. There are other hurdles, too. Sometimes India-funded projects get bogged down by frustrating delays. The trade, as big as it is really focused on just a handful of countries, which is risky. And, instability in some regions, like the Sahel, can put investments and people at risk. It's a tricky landscape for sure, and you've got to navigate it carefully. But hey, where you find challenges, you also find huge opportunities. And maybe the most exciting one of all is in the digital world. India has this amazing digital public infrastructure. Things like its UPI mobile payment system, which is just world class. It can share that with African nations and help them leapfrog entire stages of development. It's also sharing knowledge through special training programs focused on tech and education. This is really about building a partnership for the 21st century, for the digital age. So, okay, we've got this complex picture, right? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. So what's the game plan? What's the big vision? How do India and Africa take all this and actually build a genuinely shared future? Well, the good news is the foundation is already there. India's already got some major initiatives up and running. There's the Asia-Africa Growth Corridor, which it's doing with Japan. It's giving duty-free market access to the least developed African countries, and it's offered up more than $12 billion in lines of credit to get development projects off the ground. So, building on that foundation, the path forward seems pretty clear. The strategy has to be about a few key things. 1, plugging into Africa's own huge free trade area. 2, spreading the trade out, not just focusing on a few countries. And 3, and this one is so important, investing in processing minerals in Africa. So it's not just about taking raw materials out of the ground. It's about helping build the local industries that turn those minerals into finished goods. That way, more of the wealth stays on the continent. And of course, you've got to keep the conversation going with regular summits to keep the momentum up. And they've put a number on it. There's a real concrete target attached to this whole vision. The goal? To double their bilateral trade to get it to $200 billion by 2030. So, you see, this isn't just wishful thinking. It's a clear, ambitious benchmark for what success looks like. And that leaves us with one last big question to think about. As this partnership gets deeper and stronger, built on that shared history, on mutual benefits, on this shared vision for the future, you have to wonder, can the combined power of the world's biggest democracy and its incredible sister continent actually reshape the global order? Well, that's a question only the future can answer.